Hey guys, hope you all are doing well. Have you heard Pablo Escobar's son revealed who betrayed him? Want to know more details? So stay till the end of the video, but first, welcome to True Crime, a channel dedicated to the dark underworld of criminal activity carried out by gangsters, mobsters, cartel leaders, and others. Let's get started. Official account. Although it can be challenging to believe the government's official account of Pablo Escobar's death, given that everyone still claims to have killed him, there is some truth to be found in that account. According to the government, on December 3, 1993, a $100 million six-month search for the painfully evasive Escobar came to a glorious conclusion when they discovered where he was hiding, the burial home of his aunt in Medellin, his hometown, the same town where his coke career had started, and they arrested him. This aspect is correct, but it begs the question, how did they track him down? There is a problem with this account, because if you know anything about Pablo Escobar, you know it's practically impossible to believe that Pablo would have made a call from his hometown, or any call for that matter. He hated phones and he had a history of using them to commit crimes. Also, according to them, Pablo had made a call to his son, which authorities had tapped and traced. Within an hour of that call being made, Pablo was involved in a deadly shootout with members of the Colombian army in Los Pepes. Although it is hard to believe, it turns out that part of the official account is accurate. Pablo did make that call, but then we're left with yet another question. Why would he make a call that had nearly a 100% chance of being traced? Additionally, at the time, the entire city of Medellin was under severe monitoring, yet according to the official account, Escobar not only made a phone call, but also said his name, asked to speak to his son, and had a long conversation with him. Hard to believe, right? His childhood with his father. It is crucial to have a solid understanding of Pablo's relationship with his family to understand why he called his son. The media makes an effort to portray Pablo Escobar as a devoted father who did everything in his power to protect his family from the dangers of the drug trade. While it is true that Pablo may have been a devoted father, he didn't keep his lifestyle a secret from his family. When Pablo was just 27 years old and Maria Victoria Hinel was 15 years old, they fell in love and decided to elope to begin a life together. Although Pablo Escobar may have had many lovers outside of his marriage, he only had one wife, and he only recognized the children she had for him. So in his twisted way, he loved them, and he loved them enough that he poured his heart out to them. They had two children, a boy named Juan Pablo, now known as Sebastian Mariquin, and a girl named Manuela Escobar. The moment Pablo arrived, Juan Pablo Escobar had a privileged upbringing in the 1970s. He grew up in a grand mansion with large structures, a go-kart track, a private zoo with hippos and elephants, enormous swimming pools, a fleet of exotic cars and helicopters, and hundreds of maids and guards at his beck and call. However, beneath the somewhat magical setting was a looming sense of danger and death, because Pablo ran the Medellin cartel from that mansion, which provided 80% of the world's supply of cocaine. When Juan was old enough, he tried to change his father Pablo Escobar, who would organize assassinations, plan drug deals, place car bombs, and create bloodshed in Colombia. However, Pablo was not going to change, despite his willingness to hear his son's perspective from the opposing side of the fence. Juan claims that Pablo was very deliberate in his parenting. When Juan was only 8 years old, his father called him into a room where his grandfather had placed all of the drugs that were available in the home on a table. He then started teaching his son about the negative effects of using drugs while discouraging him from doing so. From that point on, everything for the Escobar family was good until Pablo Escobar made a terrible mistake. During a time of great danger, the U.S. used all available resources to track down Pablo Escobar. They supported a Colombian-run paramilitary group called Search Block. They collaborated with a group of anti-Escobar vigilantes. They worked with rival cartels. Unfortunately for Escobar, 2 Americans were also on the plane. This gave the American government an excuse to act in Escobar's capture. They were sponsored by a Colombian-run paramilitary group called Search Block, worked with a group of anti-Escobar vigilantes, and conspired with rival cartels. Pablo Escobar eventually gave in and agreed to retire to a private prison called La Catedral, while his wife, son, and daughter had to move between hideouts, never remaining in one place for more than a few days and living in constant fear. They would have a gun pointed at their faces when they would awaken. The walls were closing in on Pablo, but he couldn't afford to let his family suffer the same fate. Pablo even taught them how to kill themselves by shooting themselves in the right ear. However, his devotion to his family was about to be tested to the breaking point. Every day Pablo spent in my cathedral, he lost allies. The majority died fighting for him, and the survivors turned themselves into the authorities because they thought the war was over. The Colombian government decided to extradite Pablo to the US, but he was still losing ground and his family was in danger because he knew the government knew where he was, but they were just too afraid to try to take him because Pablo was still very powerful even in captivity. He was powerful enough to order hits on 2 of his men. A little over a year before his death, Pablo hid his family in La Casa Azul. Juan Pablo would remember his last physical moment with his father. My father took us to La Casa Azul as a way to say goodbye without realizing it. We even saw him cry for the first time. Then Pablo Escobar promised his family, "Wherever you go and wherever you are safe, I will find you. I will take a boat and find you." They were ultimately forced to lodge in a hotel in downtown Bogota, where they risked being killed at any moment after Pablo left. Pablo was aware of this and also knew that no one wanted his family. After Pablo left, his family attempted to flee to the US, but a search block prevented their travel plans. They then tried to flee to Germany, but were also rejected. If necessary, they would kill his family to capture him, because that is what they desired. The betrayer is revealed. Nobody anticipated that Pablo of all people would call his family. It was a mistake and a foolish move. The phones were tapped. At least according to his son, Sebastian Mariquin, and other family members. Pablo Escobar planned his death as his family nervously sat in the hotel room. News reporters swarmed the hotel lobby and the police patrolled the streets below. Juan was aware of it, and to protect him, he requested that his father refrain from calling. However, Pablo called back each time Juan hung up the phone, and he eventually made 6 calls. He was in Medellin, of all places, at his aunt's house, where he had been staying for a few days after spending his birthday there with El Limon, serving as a bodyguard. At this point, the search block in Los Pepes had plotted his location. You would expect him to flee now, that the government knew where he was, but not Pablo. Instead of fleeing, the man sat and waited. When he stood, he went to an open window. Pablo had 2 options in the seconds before his death. He could betray his family and life, or he could betray himself and give them a second chance at life. Pablo chose to betray himself, and by running up to the barrio rooftops in Medellin with El Limon, his bodyguard, it was obvious that he would meet his death. Pablo likely knew this because there are no recordings of his death, only photographs and the locations of his gunshot wounds, according to reports. The exact technique of suicide that Pablo Escobar had trained his son and wife to use to avoid being tortured and captured was used to kill him. A bullet had gone through his right ear when he was discovered dead. So, if you're still wondering who betrayed Pablo Escobar, now you know. Only Pablo could have done it, only Escobar could have killed Escobar, and only his devoted family could have persuaded that monster of a man to make the ultimate sacrifice. That is it for today. I hope you liked the video. Thank you for watching another amazing video from our true crime team. Like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned to our next real-life true crime video. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.